It is no surprise that the iPad Pro 2020, the brand new iPad, is one of my favorite devices ever made. This has basically been like attached, this is not my hip, but imagine if this were my hip, it would be attached to it all the time, because I absolutely love this device. But a device by itself, like no matter how good this iPad is, it's only as good as like the support, as like the accessories that you build around it. So what are my favorite iPad Pro 2020 accessories? Let's find out. Well, they're in here. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. So let's get to it. So there are gonna be a few different kind of accessories in here. There's gonna be a few different like builds, I guess you could say, of what these things are gonna be, because I use the iPad in a couple of different ways. One, I use the iPad as like a content browsing thing here in the house when I don't just wanna watch YouTube videos. I don't just wanna watch funny cat videos on my phone. I watch it on the iPad, and that I have a screen protector on here, and that's the first thing we're gonna talk about, is if you're gonna have a device like this that is like 50, I guess since half of it is screen, it's 50% screen, you really wanna make sure you protect that. No matter how good the glass on one of these devices is, it's eventually gonna scratch. And so I just bought a very cheap like glass protector. You're probably definitely not gonna be able to see that, but hey, you can see the light. But definitely, number one accessory, get a screen, get some kind of protector. If most of your device is a screen, protect that screen. We're just moving. We're moving today. The second way I use this iPad is like for a travel computer. And I use this a lot to travel around everywhere. And so this is actually the big part of all the accessories. So the first up that I use is the Apple like branded keyboard for the iPad. I love this thing. This keyboard is a lot of the reason that I even love the iPad. I mean, look at this. It just fits on there like perfectly. It fits in super snug. The iPad doesn't fall out of there. I've had like on my iPad non-Pro, if you saw that video, I'll leave it linked somewhere around here. If you saw that video, the keyboard you can buy with the non-Pro, it really comes off. It's kind of hard to get lined up, but this one, it's just so easy. It's just so easy. And I actually, even though my wife hates the sound of these keyboards, I love typing on this thing. It's very satisfying, it's fast, it's efficient, and it just, when you close it all up, it is, I mean, there is not another computer out there that really fits up this kind of space. And so to complement this, and I don't really know why I got it, but it's the iPad Pencil. The only time I use this is when I'm out and about. I don't know, I haven't actually used this one yet. I've had an iPad, I had the iPad Pro 2018 for like a year, and I didn't really use the Pencil. I buy it just because it's like, it's part of the kit, right? You gotta have part of the kit, and I like it. It works better. I'm gonna edit this so it looks like I did it on the first try. I like the snapping. I like just how satisfying it is to snap it on there. Is it useful? If you do a lot of stuff where you gotta like be a creative and draw, maybe it's useful. We might just cut out the whole part about the... So one of the real reasons that I don't even need the Pencil anymore, I used to use it as like a mouse surrogate before there was a lot of like mouse support. So the next accessory is I really like the Apple Magic Mouse. I know a lot of people don't like this thing, but I love it both on my iMac and on the iPad for a couple of reasons. One, it's really small. Two, it just pairs very easily with all Apple stuff. What I really like on here is not just that you can, scroll by going up and down on the mouse, but you can also scroll sideways and laterally, like you can go horizontally. And I use that all of the time, especially because the main thing I use my computers for is video editing, and being able to scrub through a timeline without needing a trackpad or without needing to always physically touch the screen. It's so useful, and I love the new mouse integration with the iPad. This Magic Mouse, this is my wife's Magic Mouse. I just needed it now because I'm using the other Magic Mouse in the computer room. I wonder if she's gonna watch this. But I love the Magic Mouse. You can set it up. There's a few things that if you're new to Apple, you may not realize. You can get a right click on these things. You just have to set it up in the menu system because, I mean, look, it's just one piece of glass. There's not a right click, but you can set it up to have a right click. And it fits like, and it's just so small, it fits in all sorts of carry-on accessory pouches. And speaking of carry-on accessory pouches, let's get to my favorite accessory pouch. And this is the Native Union. You can actually buy this on Apple's website, and I think that's where I got it. I don't remember what like product line this is. The only reason I know it's Native Union is it says right there, Native Union. I bought this. This is absolutely my favorite like accessory pouch that keeps everything lined up. It's so satisfying. It's got great zippers. I don't know that it's actually waterproof, but if you can see right here, it does have like water resistant zippers, and your electronics are kind of like they're afraid. I'm afraid of water. I'm afraid of my electronics getting wet. Like there's some double fear in there, and I do like that it's got the water resistant seal around the zipper. Are these YKK zippers? YKK zippers are my favorite if you've seen. I don't know if these are YKK, but these are really good zippers. But let's see what we've got in this pouch. Number one, if you're gonna be using any kind of Apple product after what, like 2016, you gotta have your dongle. And this is the J5 Create. I bought this at Best Buy. It's got the standard connections that you really need. HDMI, it's got a selection of USB, it's got USB-C for power, it's got Ethernet, but what I really need it for, micro SD and SD card, plus it goes straight into USB-C. You've always gotta have, like, everybody has their preferred dongle. This is you have to have a dongle if you are using Apple products. There's no way around it. Doesn't matter if it's the iPad, doesn't matter if it's the MacBook, doesn't even matter if it's on the iMac, because the way the screen's set up, like everything's behind it, so you need a dongle so you can just easily access stuff. Apple needs dongles, get one. Next up in our, can we open this up better? Next up, we've got the dongle, but what could we plug into it? And one of the things that so storage on small devices like this is always a problem. This one's a 512 gigabyte hard drive. The base model has 128 gigabytes. So if you get one of the smaller models, or even if you just need more storage space, I love these Samsung Portable T5 solid state drives. I carry one with me everywhere. I carry this thing everywhere because it's small, it's crazy lightweight. I should probably get a scale to start weighing this stuff, but it's super lightweight. It's you saw it, I mean, it takes up no room. It doubles my storage capacity with not really needing to bring anything else. Love them, highly recommend them. The next thing we're gonna talk about is, so one of the weird things about needing a dongle and needing an iPad is because you can't just natively plug an SD card in there, or sometimes, it used to be, it's not as much anymore, you could have weird file problems if you're trying to import Sony footage. Again, I haven't had that problem yet. Hopefully it's totally fixed. But one of the things you can do is you could set up a Wi-Fi. This is a RAV Power wireless hub. So you can plug an SD card in here, and then you can connect through their app and then have access to all of it like a wireless drive. You could set this up like a network attached storage drive with SD cards, and it just it fits in this thing. It's super useful. It also doubles as a battery. It has no charge right now, but it doubles as a battery. So not only can you use this to set up your own personal network, you can also use it to charge your equipment, and you can plug it straight into an Ethernet cable. If you need to set it up as a more directed type storage instead of just wireless, I'm a very big fan of this thing. I do think they have a new updated version of this. I'll leave links to all of this stuff in the description below. I do think there is a newer version of this. I've had this for about a year and a half. This also comes with me everywhere. Amazing. Next up, I was talking about power, right? Because you are gonna need some kind of power. Yeah, I have the power! That's from He-Man. I'm old enough to know who He-Man is. But you're also gonna need, if you're traveling, if you're doing a lot of video production, or even if you're just doing a lot of browsing on the internet, if you don't have access to being able to plug into a wall, you gotta have a battery. And so this is the battery that I take with me everywhere. This is a 10,000 milliamp hour battery from Lenovo. I think I just bought this at the checkout of Best Buy. You know, as you're walking out of Best Buy, you're hey, all that stuff that I don't need, but I'm probably gonna buy, because it seems like it's not that expensive, but it's all gonna add up to $100, and I only came in here to buy batteries. That's where I got this thing. But it's very small, it packs a lot of power. This is an older version, it doesn't have USB-C. I do kind of wish it had USB-C, but it works for what I need. It's got USB, it can charge with micro USB, and then you can see how much battery life you've got left from the top here. And I like that it's got this grippy thing right here. Can you hear that? I like that it's got this grip here because it's very easy to hold. One of the problems with technology in a technology sense is if it's slick, you're gonna drop it. And you don't wanna drop it. I don't wanna drop it. I drop stuff all the time. If you've seen my videos, you'll know that I drop stuff way too often. So power, you need it, gotta have it. Next up, and this is kind of the last big thing I want to talk about, we do have smaller things, you always got to have cables. This is a USB to USB-C cable. I've got cables everywhere. I also will have a lightning cable to charge my phone and to charge the mouse because they take lightning. Speaking of charging, just because you have a battery, a lot of times you're just gonna plug into the wall anyway, right? And so what I like to have is, this is who even makes this? Insignia makes this, but this is a wall plug with lots of USB. More and more as you go to hotels, you go traveling, it's USB anyway, but this lets you plug into one outlet and you get 4 slots for USB to charge. This thing is, does it say what its output is? I don't know what the output on this thing is, but it's been enough for me to be able to work while charging the computer. And a big thing when you're doing like travel with computers and stuff, if you have too big of like a voltage pole, sometimes if you're on an airplane, it will just shut off and not work. You gotta balance like your power needs versus the size of the thing you're gonna take. And I'm a big fan of this. It just fits in there really well. You can kind of see, right? Like there's a theme among all of my gear. So all of the gear that we've talked about so far can fit on top of the iPad mostly. Can we get it? Let's do some Tetris. I wonder if I'm gonna get copyright claim for that. Look at that. All of this stuff can fit on top of the iPad. And this turns it in to like a pro production, like it doesn't even have to be video production. Like do you write scripts? Do you do websites? Look at this, all of this stuff fits on top of this. It easily goes in a backpack. You don't even need like a huge gear bag to carry this stuff around. It's fantastic. But there are a few other things that I want to talk about. And one is I don't only use that for production. Sometimes I like to play a little bit of video games. And so I use this. This is the SteelSeries Nimbus. Now this works with all sorts of Apple devices. You can get it to work with your iPhone, you can get it to work with your Mac, but it also works really well for iPad. It pairs really easily, and it's got all the same buttons that you need to play video games. So if you're playing like Knights of the Old Republic on your iPad, I'm not saying I played Knights of the Old Republic on my iPad, but let's say you're doing that, you need a controller. I hate playing games on touchscreens. One of the things that I do kind of wish, and you heard me talk about this in earlier videos about the iPad, one of the things I like about the old iPad is it has physical buttons. I love physical buttons. I absolutely miss having physical buttons. And this little controller, it doesn't fit in here. You will need a little more space to bring it. But the buttons feel great. Can you hear that? Like they feel great. They work well. They're very responsive. It pairs easily. And like, I like gear. I'm a sucker for gear that just feels good to hold. And this feels fantastic in the hand. And then, like I said, it pairs really easily. The only negative that I have about this device, one, don't buy this if you do. This will only work with Apple devices. This doesn't like this is not a cross-platform device. And two, it charges with Lightning. We need to start moving away from Lightning. I am not a big fan or support of Lightning. USB-C for everything. Even though this looks like a USB-C port, don't be fooled by it. It's not, it's Lightning. So just make sure if you get that, you bring a Lightning cable if you want to charge it. And I do have the last few things I want to talk about, and this is more, so we talked about travel, we talked about gaming. Now if you're gonna use this as like an actual, like your only computer, there's a few things that I think you're gonna need to really take this to the next level. And one is some kind of actual keyboard. Like we talked about the Folio keyboard, but I really like using the actual Magic keyboard. With the new mouse support, with the new Bluetooth support, it's very easy to pair a legit keyboard to your iPad. And this is the one that I already have one of these, so you don't have to buy as expensive of a keyboard as this. I have it already for the iMac. I wouldn't buy one specifically for this. You could use just like a cheapo one. If you watch my series reviewing the cheapest, I've talked about cheap Bluetooth keyboards that you can use for iPads. You could get one of those too, but you do need something so you can sit down, you can have the iPad somewhere, you can have your screen set up, like if we're talking about the screen that's over here right now that you can't see, but I'm looking at. You could just very easily have everything set up with the mouse, and now you're in like legitimate computer territory. So again, you can have the small keyboard for travel, get a real keyboard if you're gonna turn it into more than just a travel computer. And if you are gonna turn it into like a more legitimate computer, you might wanna move into like Apple's actual devices. So the reason I say this as opposed to dongles, these are still dongles, but they're Apple approved dongles. This is the digital, like the video one, where it's got the HDMI, it's got USB-C, and it's got regular USB on here. The reason I recommend this one is sometimes dongles like this, if you buy a cheapo dongle, it will have problems connecting, or it will have problems like, sometimes this gets real hot if you have a lot of things plugged into it. So I would recommend getting the regular Apple one. It gives you a lot of the same functionality. You will have to then use another dongle, like this one, the SD card, if you're trying to import footage. So one of the things that you could do is use this to get SD card slot, import the footage, then move over to this dongle. Is that a big pain in the butt? Yes. Welcome to using devices that don't have built-in slots. So you can't always use a dongle. I have had problems with dongles, not just this one. I've had problems with lots of dongles. So this isn't like a travel solution. This is a keep in the studio in case of problems solution, because there is always gonna be problems if you're making content or you're making any kind of stuff. So these are my favorite accessories for the iPad Pro 2020. I would probably say the main accessory that I love for the iPad Pro 2020 is the iPad itself. Gotcha, trickeration. What would I say of all these? What is my favorite accessory? That's tough because I very much love the new mouse support. That's probably the biggest feature that I really like on iOS 13.4, but I really like this keyboard. The keyboard is a lot of what sells me on iPads in general. So I'm gonna say the keyboard is my favorite. The mouse is the quick runner-up. So if you can only have two, get a mouse and get this keyboard. But what are your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. What are your favorite accessories for your iPad? I would love to, there's probably ones that I don't even know of are out there, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you liked this video, I bet you'd like to see a video about all of this stuff kind of together as I compare this iPad, the iPad Pro 2020, against the iPad Standard from 2019. Spoilers, there's not that big of a difference. And if you want to watch that video, you can click right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.